This is part 2 of chapter 7. Rosalie picked up her pencil. Okay, little Doodlebug, she said. It's a deal. Let's get to work. That afternoon, Rosalie's classmates received the first hint that things had changed for Rosalie. Not once during spelling did they hear the tall teacher call out, "Keep your eyes on your own paper, Rosalie," or "Rosalie, do your own work," or "You'll never learn anything by copying answers, Rosalie." When the bell rang to go home, Rosalie felt a tickle on her cheek. Soon she spotted a tiny speck the size of a period skitter across her desktop. She followed the dot until it disappeared into the heart-shaped pencil sharpener she kept on the right-hand corner of her desk. Here she is looking at her heart-shaped pencil sharpener. Rosalie leaned forward and whispered, "So long, little Doodlebug. Nice having you in my ear. Now remember, tomorrow at 8:30 sharp, I expect you back there helping me with answers on my math. A deal is a deal." The next morning, with ears scrubbed clean, Rosalie sat at her desk. She faced a purple ditto sheet filled with 3-place subtraction problems. She had already turned toward Clara's paper before hearing, 256. Rosalie beamed. "Good morning, little Doodlebug," she said brightly. "How do you like my ears today?" "Smells like bubble bath in here, miss," the bug answered. "Now, shall we get to work on your math?" Okay. But are you a clever enough bug to do hard mathematics like this? A bug in the ear can answer anything, the bug reminded her. Now, if you will, the answers are 256, 152, 733. Can you keep up with me, miss? Yes, said Rosalie, furiously filling in the answers. So it went. All morning long, the bug poured answers into Rosalie's head. Naturally, she had a perfect score on her spelling test. Her oral reading was also flawless and fluent, for the bug told her all the tough words as she came to them in her reader. Rosalie amazed her classmates by reciting 2 long paragraphs in the book without even looking at the pages. In the afternoon, the class had a writing assignment, "What I Want to Be When I Grow Up." Rosalie's pencil never moved faster as the bug dictated every word, period, comma, and capital letter for her to write. At the end of the first sheet of writing, Rosalie threw open her desk to get out more paper. "This is great, little bug," she said. "This is the best report I've ever written." "Miss, don't interrupt," snapped the bug in her ear. "Now, where was I? Oh, yes. After my Oscar-winning performance in a movie, I would like to write a great novel, then be the first human on Mars." "Boy, this sure beats copying," said Rosalie, writing as fast as she could. "Glad to be appreciated, miss," said the bug. "You can always rely on a bug in the ear." At the end of the day, the tall teacher stood in front of the class with a solemn look on his face. He took a long gulp of coffee, glug, from his mug, and said, "All right, people, remember on Monday you will be giving your oral reports on a famous American." Rosalie remembered this all right. The idea of getting up in front of the entire class to talk about Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, had been bugging her for weeks. But as the tall teacher continued to talk about the speeches, how long they should be, how to use proper eye contact, and how many 3x5 note cards to use, Rosalie recalled the bug. Here is the teacher explaining things. And remember, an oral report means that you say it out loud, as opposed to a written report where you write it down. Okay, little Doodlebug, she whispered practically to herself. "Are you any good at writing speeches?" "A bug in the ear is good at everything, miss," the bug repeated. "Okay, then will you write me a speech about Neil Armstrong? Will you make it an especially good one? All the kids in the class are going to hear it." "You can count on me, miss," the bug assured her. "Your talk will be first rate. I'll slip you plenty of long sentences and 3-syllable words to say. I'll add the right number of 'in my humble opinions' and tell you when to clear your throat importantly. and when to shake your fist in the air. Sounds good, little bug, said Rosalie, but you can skip the fist shaking part. You know, miss, this speech will be a big deal for me as well, said the bug. It's a true test of my ability. In fact, I shall invite all my friends and relations to this classroom to hear you speak. You mean there are other bugs like you around? Asked Rosalie. Certainly, miss, replied the bug. There's a bug for any student who wants one in his or her ear. Rosalie watched the bug cross her desktop and enter the pencil sharpener. Well, I can't imagine why any kid wouldn't want a bug like you, she said. Good night, little bug. Monday morning came. As the morning bell rang, Rosalie sat at her desk shuffling through a stack of 3x5 cards she had filled with notes about Neil Armstrong. 3x5 cards are small cards about like that you can use to make speeches. The tall teacher said you were expected to hold note cards during your speech, but Rosalie certainly had no intention of using hers. And here she is, at her desk getting her note cards ready. She studied the heart-shaped pencil sharpener on her desk. Okay, little doodlebug, she whispered. Time to come out and climb into my ear. It was at this point that Rosalie smelled something peculiar in the room. She took a deep sniff. Phew, it smelled sweet and perfumey. Again she called the bug, but still there came no reply. I bet that little bug is busy preparing my speech, she said, continuing to sort through her note cards. Up front, the tall teacher leaned against his desk. Good morning, people, he said. Let's begin the morning with the speeches you prepared about a famous American. Who wants to go first? When not a single hand went up, the tall teacher called on Charlie. Charlie trudged forward and began talking about the painter, Norman Rockwell. Meanwhile, Rosalie tapped nervously on her pencil sharpener. Okay, little bug, she said, irritated. I need you in my ear this instant. It's showtime. When Charlie finished, the tall teacher called on Mary, who came forward to talk about Helen Keller. Almost in a panic, Rosalie lifted her pencil sharpener and shook out its contents. Pencil shavings sprinkled down on her desktop, but no bug. Oh no, what is she going to do? Come on, little buggy, where are you? She said. You can't let me down. We had a deal. I could be called on next. Sure enough, when Mary finished, the tall teacher said, Rosalie, will you now tell us about the astronaut Neil Armstrong? Rosalie swiped her bangs aside and grabbed her note cards. Her ponytail swished left and right as she plodded toward the front of the room. I pray you're in my ear, little bug, she muttered under her breath. I'm counting on you. I can't give this speech without you. At this moment, the classroom door opened. Into the room walked Mr. Leeks, the custodian. That means like the person that helps to clean the school. His finger was poised on the nozzle of a spray can, ready to blast the first thing that moved. Anything the matter, Mr. Leeks? The tall teacher called out. Here's the custodian. He's carrying a can of what probably looks like bug spray, ready to kill some bugs. Uh-oh. Like a hunter stalking its prey, Mr. Leeks shuffled up a row of desks, his spray can aimed toward the classroom floor. The matter? The matter, he said, scratching his sandpaper whiskers. Something is always the matter in the room at the end of the hall. Bugs! Bugs everywhere! You should have been here before school started today. Tiny bugs covered this entire floor. But I took care of them. I blasted this room with my bug-off bug spray. You should have seen those buggies skedaddle out of here. That means they went running as fast as they could. Bug spray? Rosalie stood as stiff as a yardstick in front of the room. Did Mr. Leeks say bug spray? She felt hot and sticky. Bug spray? Does this mean the bug won't be in my ear during my speech? Rosalie asked herself. Does this mean I'm going to have to give this speech without his help? Mr. Leeks stumped up and down the rows of desks with his spray can at the ready. Looks like my bug-off bug spray did the trick. Every one of those bugs is gone, he said, heading for the door. Always something odd, something strange, something peculiar going on in this room at the end of the hall. What next? Thank you, Mr. Leek, said the tall teacher. Now, Rosalie, you can start your speech. Here she is, getting ready to give her speech. For the next 10 seconds, Rosalie stood petrified, so scared, staring at her classmates. The 3x5 cards vibrated in her hands. That little bug let me down, she said under her breath. I'm going to have to do it all by myself. All at once, a voice in her ear startled her. At first, she failed to recognize the voice. It did not belong to the bug. It was her own voice, and it was trying to tell her something. Rosalie's eyes fell on the first note card in her hand. She listened some more. The words came more clearly now. The inner voice was reciting the speech to her. Of course. Hadn't she spent hours that weekend writing all those notes? Maybe she could say the speech by herself. Why did she need a double-crossing doodlebug to tell her the words? Rosalie brushed aside her bangs. She listened again, then said out loud, Okay. Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the surface of the moon. Who could have guessed that Rosalie was able to give such a fabulous speech? Certainly not Rosalie herself, but for the next 3 minutes she fascinated her audience with the life of Neil Armstrong. The words flowed out of her in clear, organized sentences. At one point in her talk, she became so excited she even shook her fist in the air. Not until the afternoon did Rosalie hear the bug's voice in her ear again. She had a sheet on nouns and verbs in front of her. She had filled in half the answers already without copying off a single paper. A dance is a noun. To dance is a verb, miss, said the bug in her ear. Rosalie crammed her pencil into the pencil sharpener and twisted it slowly. Sorry, little bug, she said. I don't need you anymore. But we had a deal, the bug reminded her. I'm sure there are many other kids who would love a doodlebug in their ear, said Rosalie. As for me, I'm never going to rely on anybody or anything but myself for answers again. Then it's farewell, miss, said the bug. Thanks for lending me an ear. Rosalie never saw the bug leave. Not until she finished her language sheet did she even look up from her work.